Now, in all honesty, one of the most enjoyable times I've ever had as a Star Wars fan was right after The Force Awakens came out. I mean, say what you will about that film, especially in hindsight, but at the time, the majority of the fan base seemed hopeful for the future, and more interested in discussing and creating theories about what comes next, rather than discussing how good or bad the movie we just got was. This was also the time I started doing YouTube, focusing on creating theory videos and putting such crazy ones out there like Rey's parents would actually turn out to be nobodies, and that at the end of the trilogy, Rey would take on the name Skywalker to honor her master Luke. But of course, Rey wasn't the only character I was making theories about. I also did quite a few on Snoke, and during this time, a picture of Rian Johnson holding a sign that says, "Your Snoke theory sucks," circulated and made us all wonder what he and Lucasfilm had cooked up for the character, what we would see in The Last Jedi. Would it blow our minds? Were we all playing checkers? Why they at Lucasfilm, led by Johnson, playing 4D chess? But it turned out the reason why our Snoke theory sucked is because, well, we bothered to come up with one in the first place, whereas Johnson did not. He just literally cut Snoke out of the story. And J.J. Abrams arguably didn't help matters in regards to Snoke and the Rise of Skywalker by just making him something that was created by Palpatine and grown in a vat. And since then, well, we haven't heard too much about Snoke or his story or backstory from any Star Wars material that Lucasfilm has put out there, nor is anyone putting any fun, crazy Snoke theories on YouTube anymore. That ship has long since sailed. Until now, that is, and I want to stress the crazy and fun part. Because in the Andor series, and spoilers incoming, anyway, in Andor we've been introduced to Kino Loy, a prisoner in one of the many facilities on Narkina 5, making parts of some kind, and probably parts for the Death Star, who knows. Either way, this character, Kino, and for obvious reasons, like being played by the same actor, he does bear a striking resemblance in some ways, or at least his voice, to Supreme Leader Snoke from the sequels. And though I initially said in my review to not start any crazy Snoke theories, that it would be utterly ridiculous to imply these two characters could in any way be related or one and the same, I've since changed my mind a bit, not about it being ridiculous, it still very much is, yet at the same time, why the hell not at this point? Because, let's face it, for better or worse, love or hate the sequels, we know they're not going anywhere. Some way, somehow, Lucasfilm is going to continue to try and work them in or tie them into the larger story of Star Wars. There's even a rumor out there that the next Star Wars movie will take place after the sequels, and may even have characters from them in it. So we know, assuming that is true, that it's likely in shows like The Mandalorian, connections to them are going to be made, if they haven't already. I mean, in The Mandalorian Season 2, we even have an episode where we see a recording from Dr. Pershing talking about a volunteer in relation to some sort of secret project that looks like it could have something to do with Snoke, potentially, and that involved Grogu's blood, or that they need someone with a high M count. So, why not make this volunteer Kino? What if, say, Kino either fails to escape in what will no doubt be a prison break episode next week, or he gets away and is recaptured later on, or it seems like he's killed but actually somehow survives, we'll just say he has two stomachs or something, and then he ends up in another facility, a much, much worse one, as punishment for either trying to escape or helping others escape or whatever it might be. Just make it one where Palpatine's top scientists and the Sith Eternal or whatever, that they're carrying out experiments on people, and link it to those Force-sensitive children we always see Palpatine wanting to kidnap. And it turns out somehow Kino survives these experiments. He's some kind of genetic match or anomaly or something like that. And he then becomes the template for Snoke. And again, I know how stupid and ridiculous this all sounds. I'm not being completely serious here, I think. I'm mainly someone who just enjoys making theories, you could say, and sometimes some pretty crazy ones. But then again, if you want to somehow make those who don't like or care about the sequels ever have even a remote kind of change of heart towards them, you're going to have to do something special while building towards them, or with the rest of the story, you could say. I'm also not implying that people who hate the sequels will suddenly start to like them. The story in them is just a mess, and there's always going to be people who do not like the sequels. But if you can at least build one heck of a story around them, if you can do something to clean up the mess, maybe in the context of the story, they won't be quite as bad as many people see them as now. I don't know. What I do know is if you have any hope of changing hearts and minds in regards to the sequels, even a little bit, you're going to need special characters, actors, and stories to pull that off. And after being in just 2 episodes, I'd say Kino is already becoming a sort of fan favorite, thanks in large part to the amazing performance given to us by Andy Serkis, a performance so good that it stands out amongst other incredible characters and performances. And look, I'm not saying we now need a show called Kino, a Star Wars Story, though I'm not saying don't do that either. It could be as simple as an episode of The Mandalorian or some other future show where we discover an old Imperial prison or a research facility, and he is finally freed after all of that time, after once only being 200 some days away from going home, as we see in Andor. But anyway, in closing, if you find this theory crazy or you don't like it because it involves the sequels, I get all that. This is mainly being put out there in good fun, and because, yeah, I do sort of miss the days of making fun speculation videos. Either way, just keep in mind how unlikely this is to actually happen, that what's probably going to happen next week or in the next episode is Kino will die, and that will be the end of the character, and the end of this theory, unless he does have 2 stomachs. Well, that's all I got for you this time. Now it's your turn to weigh in on this one. Is this just a stupid and crazy idea, or is there actually something here? Whatever the case may be, leave your comments below and let's talk some Star Wars. And until next time, thanks for watching.